can't believe I've actually volunteered to talk about myself. This is very unlike me. So we'll see how we get on, I guess. And, you know, I think listening to Laura kind of said, oh, I don't believe in imposter syndrome. I'm definitely experiencing some over here having to follow Laura. But also, actually, I felt quite validated by quite a lot of what Laura said. There was a lot of her experiences that I absolutely can share as well, which was really great. So it was awesome to hear Laura speak. So right, so I'm Victoria. I'm founder of a business called Space HR. I'll come back onto that in a minute. I'm also mummy to two small people. So my wife Emily and I have got Alice, who's 4, and Imogen, who is 2. I founded Space HR about 18 months ago, and everything that we do is around employee engagement and creating incredible workplaces. And at the heart of that is some tech that we built that helps to capture employee feedback and really kind of understand what's going on in an organisation. And then I work with them, want to ask the right questions and make sure that we're getting really relevant feedback, and then to work out what we're going to do with all that data and the insight that our fabulous dashboard captures. Quite a lot of the surveys and the feedback collection that we do is via WhatsApp. To kind of create a bit of a different experience for employees and kind of move away from those traditional annual engagement surveys. That is definitely not what we're trying to do. So we're kind of turning all that employee feedback and that's just gold in organizations and helping them to create these incredible workplaces and turn up performance in their business. So I thought what I'd do is I'd kind of share a little bit about my story about how I ended up where I am today. So I actually had kind of big corporate roles with the big salary, and I was on Manchester Airport's leadership team at one point, and worked for big international organizations. And then I got headhunted to go to a tech startup business called Volcanic, and I was brought into that business to mature it. And it was that kind of environment was just fantastic, and I definitely caught the entrepreneurial bug there. And the plan was that we were going to sell that business, and that happened actually much more quickly than we thought it was going to. And then I went across into the parent company, and I headed up their mergers and acquisitions team for a period of time, doing that kind of hearts and minds work around acquisitions, and just seeing these kind of exited founders, and this kind of entrepreneurial bug grew and grew and grew. So I then went off on maternity leave to go and have Imogen, and the pandemic hit. And whilst I was off on the pandemic, I just had this real kind of life's too short moment. And at that point, I just quit my job and set up Space HR and just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So actually, there was a bit of Laura's advice there where I kind of made sure I'd got a bit of stuff in my back pocket that could kind of see me through while I went and established this business. And again, like Laura, I accidentally am a tech founder. So I started off doing generalist HR advice, and then the more work I got in, the more I was like, do you know what? I'm not kind of enjoying this work. Actually, it's employee engagement stuff that really makes my heart sing. And then we started looking at tech, and it kind of snowballed from there, really. And I think, being a parent and having a baby and a 4-year-old, my eldest has just started school, and trying to make this work. I think I had this like wishful thinking that it was going to be like, I was going to be flexible, and I was going to be doing Pilates class on a Wednesday morning. And, not one time have I ever got anywhere near to a Pilates class on a Wednesday morning, nor having my nails done or any of that other stuff that I kind of thought that I was going to do. But then when I think about, I do have flexibility, but it's in a different way to what I expected. So if you look in my diary, it's a little military operation, but I kind of I kind of make sure that I've got the time to pick the girls up or, you know, drop them off or whatever. And some of that stuff is sacred. And then the other stuff is kind of total work stuff. And I actually give myself a 9-day fortnight. So every other Friday I have off with my youngest, and I try and really protect that time, because I had a similar time off with my eldest, and now I try and do that with my youngest as well. And we'll kind of go and do something fun, or sometimes we don't. We go to Tesco's and, you know, and do boring stuff. And I can remember having a conversation with my wife when the guilt had really properly kicked in at some point. I was working really hard on some projects, and, you know, I felt like I wasn't being as present as I was, and I was really starting to beat myself up about it. And I had this conversation, quite a teary conversation actually, with about, you know, oh God, I'm not making this work, am I? And the promise that I made you around more flexibility, etc. And she actually kind of reminded me that she saw it really differently. You know, I think she remembered clearer what I'd walked away from and where we were going, really. And, you know, she only saw the upside, so that kind of helps. So I was thinking about kind of strategies of things that are kind of working for me, and some of the stuff that I feel like I am doing at the moment that are contributing to kind of me making this work. And it doesn't work every day, it just doesn't. But mostly, especially when my daughter got COVID just before Christmas, it definitely didn't work then. It all came crashing down like a house of cards. There is very rarely a plan B. But some of the things that I was kind of reflecting on ahead of this was, I don't know whether any of you have ever read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's a section in there, and it talks about kind of the roles that you play, and it talks about being a mummy and a wife and a friend and a daughter, and, you know, and I carry that around in my head quite a lot when I'm kind of thinking about all the different roles that I play, and I try and make sure that I'm kind of contributing in all of those areas of my life. So I don't write it down, but it's, you know, it's on my mind about, you know, have I made a big enough contribution in my parent one to kind of stave off a bit of guilt, and have I spent enough time with my team, and you know, and did I manage to do date night, or did I duck out of it or whatever? And kind of that helps me to kind of think about, am I spreading my time fairly and evenly, I guess. I'm one of those 5 a.m. I'm a 5 a.m.er, and I get up and I go and make coffee, and I sit on the sofa at the moment with a rug going, what am I doing at 5 o'clock in the morning? But that's my kind of sacred time when I like to go and do some really deep work and do some kind of creative work. And you know, there's probably, maybe if I'm lucky, about an hour and a half there before anybody else gets up. And that is time when I just try and kind of really work, you know, on my business, and I go and try and get myself forward. And you know what, sometimes if I'm not in the mood for it, sometimes I just sit there for an hour and have a coffee on TikTok, and kind of turn it into a moment for myself. But yeah, it's a habit that I've got into, kind of getting up that early in the morning. But it does mean by, like, you know, 5 o'clock I am done. I very rarely work in the evening. I tend to kind of leave that for my relationship or the kids. I have tried to set some boundaries. I'm not very good with boundaries between work and home, but I've got 2 mobile phones, and I've got a work mobile phone, and I try and make sure that I leave that at home. So when I'm not taking work calls, because calls definitely take you away from things, emails, it's kind of a micro, I've just had a sneaky look at an email or whatever. But yeah, I have 2 work phones, and that's kind of one of my boundaries that I have at the moment. I'm sure Lauren Holly's diaries are very similar to mine, though. You know, they're just crazy in terms of who's picking the kids up, and, you know, and how am I going to get that done, and what does that client need, and what's it look like, how are we going to get it all done. And actually, my wife is a school teacher. She's teaching kids to read and write and maths, and it's such important work that she does. So we often kind of have a sit down at the kitchen table and go, right, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. Let's have a look at how we can kind of make it fair. Is everyone pulling their weight? And, how can we kind of make sure that we're being present? And, I need to lie in and you've got no chance, and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of another point. And then the final point that I was thinking about was that I like to kind of think about myself as this strong, independent woman, and of female founder, business owner, mother, whatever. And actually, when I reflect on it, I was like, I am so incredibly dependent upon others to make this happen. So, my networks, and Laura absolutely called them out, and I would be lost without my network, without my WhatsApp groups that I love being part of, or, groups like this that I just enjoy coming and connecting with people. Networks, the communities that I'm in, my the girls' grandparents, my friends, my team, my wonderful cleaner, who kind of, all of these people who helped me move all the pieces around on a daily basis. I definitely couldn't do it without them. And as I said earlier, it is all 100% on a knife edge. There is no plan B, but I have never felt more fulfilled in a career in the work that I'm doing than the work that I'm doing now in my business, and being a parent. So I guess that really quickly is my story.